Coming in at no. 8 is The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin. This supernatural horror film is based on the novel of the same name by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the screenplay for the film. The story is about a young girl named Regan who is possessed by a demon. Her mother, Chris, takes her to see Father Damien Cares, a young priest who is struggling with his faith, and together they try to perform an exorcism to free her from the demon's grasp. But there is one thing that you need to know. There were several injuries and even deaths during filming due to some factors out of the filmmaker's control. The most famous being the tragic death of the actor who played Regan, Linda Blair. Well, not really. That would be the worst-case scenario for the film's production. But no, Linda Blair is still very much alive. However, she did suffer a serious injury while filming. During one of the more intense scenes, Linda was spinning around in her bed like a record. She was actually thrown so violently that she hit her head on the bed frame, causing a concussion, and she wasn't the only one who got hurt. The film's director, William Friedkin, injured his hand so badly while trying to tame a rampaging dog that he needed surgery. And during the shoot, the set's lighting system caught fire, injuring 3 crew members. So that's not what we were referring to earlier. It was, however, the reason why the producers decided to call it quits on day 98 of shooting, since they had already spent 30 days over budget and the insurance company threatened to pull the plug if production didn't wrap up soon. But something far scarier than any of these mishaps happened when a Washington Post reporter leaked the entire script of The Exorcist to the press. Blatty was furious about this and hired a private investigator to find the source. And wouldn't you know it, the mole turned out to be none other than the film's editor, Verna Fields. She had given the script to her boyfriend, who just so happened to be a reporter. Blatty was so angry that he fired Fields immediately. But once he calmed down, he realized that maybe this wasn't such a bad thing after all. In fact, he saw it as a good omen and told the producers to keep shooting. And boy, did that turn out to be a smart move, because upon its release, The Exorcist became a cultural phenomenon. It grossed over $440 million worldwide against a budget of just $12 million. Not only that, but it received 5 Academy Award nominations and won 2, including Best Sound and Best Adapted Screenplay. So, if you're a fan of scary movies, then you have to watch The Exorcist. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep at night. Next up is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Directed by Tobe Hooper, this slasher film is about a group of friends who go camping in rural Texas, where they are stalked and murdered one by a family of cannibalistic killers. The most famous of which is Leatherface, a hulking psychopath who wears a mask made of human skin and wields a chainsaw as his weapon of choice. The film was shot in 1973 and was released in 1974 to mostly positive reviews from critics. Many praised its gritty realism and disturbing violence, but it was also criticized for being too graphic for some audiences. In fact, it was banned in several countries, including Argentina, Australia, and Norway. But despite its controversial reputation, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre has become a classic of the slasher genre and has spawned 8 sequels, 3 of which were produced by and star the original actress Marilyn Burns. But before we move on, let's talk about something important. When you're watching these movies, make sure you're with friends or family, or at least someone else. Don't watch them alone. You never know when your power might go out and you don't want to be alone in the dark. Speaking of darkness, have you ever experienced something that you couldn't explain? Something that happened in the dead of night when no one was looking. Did you ever find an answer? Share your story with us and our community. We appreciate hearing different perspectives. Alright, back to the video. The movie has been remade twice. Once in 2003 and again in 2022, but if you want to experience the full terror of the story, you have to watch the original. So turn off the lights, grab some popcorn, and settle in for a night of scares. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep afterwards. Coming in at no. 6 is Alien, directed by Ridley Scott. This science fiction horror film is about a crew of commercial spaceship salvage workers who discover an alien creature on board an abandoned ship. The alien turns out to be extremely deadly and begins picking off the crew one by one. And if you think that's messed up, wait until you hear what happened during filming. In 1978, a year before Alien's release, there was a tragic accident on the set of the film that resulted in the death of two crew members. During a routine dolly move, a camera and lighting assistant accidentally rolled forward, pinning a cameraman and a crew member beneath it. Both of them were taken to the hospital where they were pronounced dead. This was obviously a devastating loss for the cast and crew of the film, especially since it came so close to the end of production. But they paid tribute to their fallen colleagues by dedicating the movie to their memory. Despite this tragedy, Alien went on to be a critical and commercial success. It grossed over $100 million worldwide and spawned a franchise that includes 5 sequels, 2 of which were produced by and star the original actress, Sigourney Weaver. And if you want to see what all the fuss is about, then do yourself a favor and watch the original. Just be prepared for some seriously scary moments, especially the scene where Kane is being attacked by the alien creature. It has one of the most intense scenes in cinema history and will leave you on the edge of your seat. At No. 5, we have Sinister, directed by Scott Derrickson. This supernatural horror film is about an author named Ellison Osgood who moves into a home where a family was brutally murdered. He soon discovers a box of home movies that show the killings and becomes obsessed with solving the mystery. As he digs deeper, he uncovers a sinister secret that threatens to destroy him and his family. While the film was a critical success with many praising its originality and effectiveness, it was also a commercial success grossing over $78 million worldwide against a budget of only $3 million. And if you're looking for a good scare, then do yourself a favor and watch it. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep at night. The next movie on our list is the 1970 film The Changeling, directed by Peter Bogdanovich. This supernatural horror film is about a man named Craig Sheldon who moves into an old mansion in Los Angeles and soon realizes that it is haunted by the ghost of a young woman. As he tries to uncover the mystery of her death, he is tormented by strange and terrifying events that make him question his sanity. The film is based on a story by American author and screenwriter S. Darko, who also wrote the screenplay for the film. The cast is great, with George C. Scott giving an Oscar-nominated performance as Craig, but despite its strong performances and creepy atmosphere, The Changeling was a box office failure. It only grossed $9.6 million worldwide against a budget of $20 million. And many critics panned it for being too slow-paced and lacking in scares. But if you're a fan of ghost stories and atmospheric thrillers, then do yourself a favor and give it a watch. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep at night, so do yourself a favor and give it a watch. But if you want to feel like you're actually in the movie, then we suggest watching it in the dark. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep afterwards. Next up is the 1980 film The Shining, directed by Stanley Kubrick. This psychological horror film is based on Stephen King's novel of the same name and is about a family who spends the winter alone in an isolated hotel where a young boy develops psychic abilities and uncovers the hotel's dark secrets. The film features an amazing cast including Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, and Danny Lloyd, but despite its stellar performances and stunning visuals, The Shining was a box office bomb upon its initial release. Many critics hated it and viewers found it too slow-paced and boring. However, over time, its reputation has grown and today it is considered to be one of the greatest horror films ever made. In fact, it's ranked No. 21 on the American Film Institute's 100 Years of Terror list of the top 100 horror films. So, if you haven't seen it yet, do yourself a favor and watch it tonight. But if you want to really immerse yourself in the story, we recommend watching it with the volume turned down low. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep afterwards. Finally, we have the 1990 film Misery, directed by Rob Reiner. This psychological horror film is based on Stephen King's novel of the same name and is about a writer who is held captive by his #1 fan after a car accident, and she won't let him leave until he writes a new story for her. The film stars James Caan as Paul Sheldon, a famous romance novelist who is recovering from a car accident. Kathy Bates as Annie Wilkes, Paul's #1 fan who holds him captive in her house. And Lauren Bacall as Bernal, Paul's agent who comes to Annie's house to check on him. The film was a huge success with critics and audiences alike. Many praised it for its performances, especially Kathy Bates, who won an Academy Award for her portrayal of Annie Wilkes. In fact, Misery was one of the highest-grossing horror films of all time, earning over $125 million worldwide against a budget of $13 million. So, if you haven't seen it yet, then do yourself a favor and watch it tonight. But if you want to get the full experience, then turn off all the lights and make sure you have your volume turned down low. Just don't blame us when you can't sleep afterwards.